Welcome to the Boschcast with James Boschman and Denise Young, where we talk Manitoba real estate and everything else that's on our minds. Holy shit, we're doing it live. Here we go. Episode 1. I can't believe we made it here. 2023. How did we survive? I wake up every morning.
Survive 2022?
Yeah.
How did we make a lot of offers that didn't get accepted?
Yeah. Like through COVID and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID is still here, but.
Oh, yeah. Now there's the Kraken.
The Kraken?
Yeah, the Kraken variant.
Oh, great. Where do they come up with these names?
I don't know.
The Kraken. Next one will be the Captain Morgan variant. Kraken Black.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels variant. Yeah, so we figured it would be a good time, a better time than any, to start a podcast, and this is our first kick at the cat here, and our first go. But we're super excited to do this. I'm really excited to do this. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, and just make it like super easy conversation style. In the future, I think it'd be really cool to have, guests on, not specifically like real estate related or industry related, but just like entrepreneurs, business owners, stuff like that. But what the goal, I think, with this podcast is going to be in the future is just to share our insight into the market. Because Winnipeg, I don't think there are too many podcasts. There might be in the future, but I don't think there are too many people talking about what's happening in Winnipeg or Manitoba specifically. I listen to a lot of podcasts from guys in, Ontario and Vancouver, and it really helps me with, to learn about like the macro about our Canadian real estate market. And it's interesting to kind of learn about what's happening in those provinces and how it relates to our province. And it actually makes, I wake up and I'm like, God, I actually love living here because, our market is thankfully nothing like big interest rate sensitive markets, in Toronto and Vancouver. It's not all doom and gloom. And, yeah, it's just interesting to listen to that and, relate it to what's going on here. But I think the goal with this podcast is just to share our knowledge, share our insight, talk about what's happening in the market, what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the world. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a macroeconomic expert or anything like that, but, just kind of peel behind the curtain a little bit and have a conversation about everything. And then also to share some of our anecdotal stories from over the years, being that you and I are both like full-time realtors, and, I'm coming up on 10 years now in real estate. In March, it'll be 10 years, which is insane.
Ooh, yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But I figured we got a lot of stories to tell, and this would be a real fun way to tell those stories. And then also, I really want to try to give back to people and businesses that have really done right by us, or, have, used us in the past, in real estate, or businesses that we've had good experiences with. And that's not just industry related stuff. It's not like, mortgage brokers and stuff like that, which definitely shout out when we have good mortgage brokers, but like, just like local restaurants and stuff like that. If we have a good experience, there's a saying in the rap industry, and I love listening to hip hop and stuff like that. But there's a few artists, they say, give me my roses while I can still smell them. And I think that's so important in this day and age, is to give people their flowers while they can still smell them, and be grateful and show gratitude and be thankful for people. And just try to give more in value than you would ever receive in payment. And But yeah, so I think we're going to start this off eventually. Like, we're going to get better at this, we're going to work through the kinks and stuff like that. And right now we're just streaming using Google Meet. But who knows, maybe we'll upgrade and we'll find a different platform in the future. And yeah, but I think we're going to start this off by sharing kind of our stories. But before we get to that, we're in 2023. And the other day, our office, like, I think bi-weekly, when does EXP, when do we have our meetings? Do we have weekly meetings or
bi-weekly? Yeah.
Bi-weekly meetings?
Yeah.
So the other day, we had a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet meeting with our broker. And they're always great. And, they're really collaborative and everything. But Rena, our broker, had asked a question. And I actually jumped in quite late into the meeting. I was running behind, coming home from the gym, and I didn't want to jump into a call while I was driving. So I got home and I jumped in. I was like 15 minutes in, and then all of a sudden, near the end of the meeting, she was like, "Okay, so I asked you guys to give me one word, like a mantra that you'd like to use to describe your 2023." And I was like, oh, shoot, I was kind of on the spot. So it finally came to my name, and I was like, kick ass. She's like, well, that's 2 words, but I'll take it. And I'm like, yeah, I wish I had a little bit more time to think about that one. But I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I kind of do.
Like me?
Yeah. So what would be your one word?
Build.
Like, build?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So after reflecting on kick-ass,
yeah,
that's a pretty sad mantra for 2023. Mine is similar.
So I like kick-ass.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. Kick-ass maybe. Mine is upon further reflection and for the purposes of the podcast today, I'm going to put out growth, which is similar to build.
Similar to build. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I want to grow this team. I want to grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, I want to have a great 2023. And
awesome. Yeah, I want to build on things that we've already started and things that we've already talked about. And obviously that includes, personal growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast is a big thing. Like, we're like, we should do this, and kind of joked about it. And, now we're here. Here we are. Started from the bottom. Now we're here. So another thing that we want to do is kind of give an opportunity to people out there, if they have any real estate related questions or just anything they want us to touch on a subject, talk about something, to hit us up. You can DM us or call us or text or email, and we'd love to kind of share on the podcast. I think the first segment that we'll get into is just sharing a little bit about who we are, where we're from, and what got us into real estate. I think there's a Backstreet Boys song like that. Who you are, where you're from.
I know that's my era, but I wasn't a Backstreet Boys fan.
No.
So I couldn't tell you, but that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, Denise.
Yeah.
Who are you? And what did you do before real estate, and why real estate? Like, why did you end up jumping into this business, crazy business?
Well, it's crazy because, I was thinking about that. I just celebrated my 15th year in real estate and had a lot of time in October to reflect back. And and think about all the things I did before, and had some opportunities to bump into some people from my previous life.
Mhm.
And I worked in the car business for 15 years, mostly in service, and
Like for
really
a
got,
dealership?
yeah, at a couple of the major dealerships in the city. Vickers is very busy. I was also at Winnipeg Dodge for a while, and
Nice.
again, very busy dealership, and very busy service departments with a lot of mechanics. And worked in the service department a lot of my time as a service advisor, but in customer service prior to that, and really learned a lot about problem solving and negotiation,
Mhm.
because that's all you're dealing with really is problems
Yeah.
as a service advisor. And that was at the height of the immobilizer programs, which nobody wanted in their cars.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know, actually. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I wonder if people still are forced to go get that.
I remember when, like, because I come from a car background as well. My dad
Mhm.
was in the car business for a long time and still kind of is, I guess. And so I kind of grew up turning wrenches as well. And I remember like getting those MPI letters in the mail saying
Yeah,
that you have to go to this like shop downtown and get your immobilizer put in. And it was like,
yeah.
take your vehicle to some sketchy shop on like
I
Isabel.
worked at one of those sketchy shops for about a year.
Yeah, I was like, what? It was just
Then went back to the dealership.
such a weird thing. And then people were
Yeah.
pulling them out, aftermarket stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. And I mean, it was such a negative thing actually, because people didn't want them, right? So
Mhm.
I found it actually made my job at the dealership way worse than it already was.
Yeah.
It was so stressful already. And then you just had people yelling at you all the time. And
Mhm.
because they didn't want them. And if anything went wrong with their car, because we were putting them in, 10 to 15-year-old cars. So something, was always going to go wrong. and it was always blamed on the immobilizer, even like a month later. Even someone I knew had gotten one put in their car, and it was like a late 80s model, like New Yorker or something, and their timing chain went after, and like they were screaming at me and everything. I just hated, like, once the mobilizers came in, I hated my job so much because of it. And I just was like, I have to do something to get myself out of this, because I can't, like, I'm not enjoying doing this job anymore.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was in customer service. I felt like I was just being yelled at all the time. and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just very negative, and that's not me. So when I was going through all the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to actually go into nursing, but the
Oh.
nursing programs were like really far behind. Like I would have had to wait like almost 5 years to get into a program. And I didn't feel like I had that kind of time. I
Mhm.
was already, in my 30s, and definitely didn't want to be waiting another 5 years in a job I hated. And I had always kind of liked real estate and kind of always looked at real estate. And when I had done, in high school, you do those aptitude tests. It had been one of the things that had come up on the aptitude test for me.
Hmm.
So it was always something in the back of my mind.
Like
And
customer service type. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And so Jamie McCready was actually one of my customers at Vicker.
No
And
way.
and he was a brand new realtor. And I'm like, hey, Jamie, can we talk? And and he did chat with me for a bit. And he actually invited me to join them he was at Century 21 at the time. And I decided in the end that I wanted to do things on my own. And I had done a lot of work for realtors at Royal LePage Prime, as it was one of my friends had a business that did work for realtors, and she did a lot for people at Royal LePage Prime. And so when I had met with them, they just had so much training and stuff at the time, and I chose them over going with Jamie and trying to do things on my own, which
Yeah.
is funny because a year in, and I had an awesome first year, but it's a lonely business when you're doing it by yourself.
For sure.
So I did end up joining a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the team models.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, that really, like, the fact that you were in customer service and and then you wanted to be a nurse, like that really kind of, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you wanted to be a nurse, but that makes a lot of sense because you're very like caring person and you go above and beyond for people,
Yeah. Looking back or looking at that now, I'm like, I don't know how I could handle being a nurse. I'm not really into blood and all that. And I even have a hard time changing my niece's diapers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so as much as I love and care for people, there's just some stuff I can't do that a nurse would have to do.
Yeah, it's like being a nurse is especially during COVID. I mean,
Oh gosh, yeah.
even now, like I could go on a hours long tangent about how messed up
Yeah.
our system is, but
Exactly.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
you got
They
it.
are definitely the heroes.
Definitely. So you got into real estate. You've been in 15 years now, which is crazy. I mean, I met you when we were both at Royal LePage Prime, and I think we had done a deal together or something.
Yeah.
It was like a deal. You had a buyer client for a build in St. Adolphe.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking to bring somebody on, like, to help. And I really liked how you worked with your client. And I think you and I had a conversation and you were like, I'm either thinking about leaving and going to a different brokerage, or I want to join a team and be part of something. Right. And I was like, well, don't leave. Like, just let's work together. If I ever need something, I'll just call you or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like happened naturally like that. And then, we decided to do this team thing, which is awesome. And I couldn't ask for a better person to be on my team. I'm not just saying that. And Denise is being very, she's very, people that don't know her, very humble person, but she really goes above and beyond. And that's not just for her clients, that's like for everybody. And you're probably like the most charitable person that I know. And that's something that I really aspire to be. Is, so when I talk about growth for 2023, like, I really want to grow to be a better person and a more charitable person and give back. Because you like do all these food drives and stuff like that. And that's one thing that I was like, okay, Denise needs to be in my life because I need to be around more of this. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you for being who you are.
Thanks.
But yeah, so I got into real estate, not really, I kind of had, I guess, my back up against the wall. I didn't really know what else to do with my life. And I kind of grew up outside of Winnipeg, so I didn't really know too many people here when I finally moved here. I essentially moved to Winnipeg to go to school. I was at U of M for University of Manitoba for about, maybe a year and a bit, year and a half, I think. And it wasn't really for me. And I wasn't in a position where I could afford to keep paying for school and having to work full time, because I had to essentially pay my own way in school. Mm-hmm. And I didn't grow up very privileged, or I was kind of a poor kid growing up. And but I knew that I wanted to help people in some way. And so I kind of floundered a bit. I was in a band and, played some shows, and that was a lot of fun. But I wanted something more. And I went into construction, and I became a structural steel welder. So I went to college, put myself through college, got my welding tickets. And then I worked for a structural steel welding shop downtown and had a lot of fun. I really loved that job, but it's super dangerous. And, you know, a lot of people that work in that field, they don't live a very long life.
Right.
You know, just lifestyle or, you know, being welder's flash. Like I had points where I had gone blind.
Oh, wow.
I had to be rushed to the hospital, you know, getting burned and everything, inhaling fumes and dust.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, it taught me how to work hard, and it really got my ass in gear, and it made me want to strive for more. And I was kind of at this point where, you know, I was a union worker, and when you're a union, anybody out there is listening, if they're a union worker, like, you know, you work hard for, especially if you're like a newer union employee, you work hard for like, you know, 2 months, and then you could get laid off for 6 months, and then you have to go on EI, or, and that's not really in my DNA. Like, I don't like sitting idle. I don't like resting my laurels on, you know, government assistance if I don't have to. I don't like taking advantage of, you know, things. So I went out and I, you know, found work here and there. And then I was at a point where I was like, I need to build something better, more stable for myself. And Tara, my wife, her dad and her, they were like, you know, why don't you get into sales? And there was a career information night that Royal LePage was holding at the time. And my father-in-law went, and he was kind of like, you know, I think that you should do this. I think you'd be really good at it. And so I reached out. I ended up getting my real estate license, and then I got into it and haven't looked back. And that was back when real estate was full time. Like in Manitoba, it's unlike other provinces, or you can be part time now, but like that change was only made very recently.
Right.
Prior to that, you had to be all or nothing. You couldn't go, you know, wait tables or pull wrenches and then go sell houses in the evening. You had to be full-time realtor. So, you know, being in a position where, you know, we didn't really have a lot. I didn't have a lot, you know, kind of come from this place where, you know, fear can be a tool, right? It can motivate you or it can cripple you. And for me, I didn't have any other choice. So, you know, it motivated me to get moving and you know, build this business. And yeah, coming up on 10 years, I haven't looked back. So it's the greatest decision I ever made. Just with the people that I've been able to meet, and people that we've been able to help, and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of leads me into my next question. You know, being that you've been in real estate for 15 years, you've seen probably everything. What do you love the most about this business, and why do you continue to do it?
The people.
Yeah.
I love working with the people. I love working with, you know, I love working with new buyers, first-time home buyers. I love working with people who are maybe transitioning from a difficult life situation and getting them to where they need to be, helping them get there, right? Like, you know, divorces and estates, and even transferring from one city to another can be a difficult process. And yeah, there's some excitement behind it, but there's usually a lot of trepidation. And I just love getting people back to the exciting part of it. Yeah. You know, I just love working with the people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say the same for myself. I love building relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the thing that really keeps me going is, you know, at the end of the day, knowing that these people are in a net positive position, they're in a better spot than they were previous.
Right.
And you know, for me, like over the years, I've really tried to figure out what I love the most and what I love doing in this business. And I really love working in new home construction and working for developers, because it's kind of like world building in a way. When you hear about a new development coming in and you look at it and it's just a patch of dirt, you know, it's like a farmer's field.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, that's a great thing about this business is prior to real estate, you know, I kind of like took a lot of things for granted and took advantage of a lot of things. And when you get it, when you're a realtor, you're kind of forced to see the good in everything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to use something as an example. So when I was welding, I used to work downtown on Dowling and Jarvis by McPhillips. Kind of a rough area, right?
Yeah.
And you'd drive through, you know, the North End and you'd be like, oh my God, like this is really bad, you know, and really run down, and how can anybody live here? But, you know, getting into real estate, and then you get that phone call and it's somebody who's like, I got a house to sell on Aberdeen Ave, or I got a house to sell on Redwood. And, you know, now it's like you're forced to see the good in that property, because you have to
market it.
You have to market it, right? Yeah. But then you're in these neighborhoods and then you meet the people. And, you know, I love the North End, you know, there's so much heart and soul there. And so you're kind of forced to see the good in everything and see the potential in everything. So it's very like long-term thinking. And I think if you're somebody who's interested in getting into real estate and you're able to see things long-term, you know, you'd be great at this business. But like the one thing I love about real estate and is just looking at a piece of dirt and being like, okay, that in a year, there's going to be 30 houses that go there. And, you know, and then working with the people to customize their home and build their property. And, you know, and then you drive in there a year later and these people are going on walks with their dogs and their kids with other people that you've also helped in the same area. And, you know, they're all friends or they're all acquaintances or whatever. And you're like, man, I had a hand in that. Like, that's so cool. And, you know, it is kind of like a thankless business in a way sometimes, but that's what really keeps me going is like, I really love seeing the end result down.
Yeah. The outcomes.
The outcomes. Absolutely. Yeah. I love working with first-time buyers for that reason too, because, you know, it's always super exciting in like 2 or 3 years or 4 years or whatever, when they call and they're like, hey, we're bursting at the seams. We're popping out kids left, right, and center, and we need to upsize. And you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like you guys got to enjoy that house and build memories and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just such a great feeling.
Absolutely.
And I finally feel like I'm, you know, I was searching for something for so long where I was like, man, I just want to help people, you know? And I was actually in university, oddly enough, I wanted to get into social work. So I was like kind of taking like social working courses, and I was like, no, maybe I'll get into law. But it didn't end up working out because I had to like bust my ass.
I hear you.
You know, and so now it feels like, you know, I'm in something that I, you know, can really have a net positive in the world. So, but yeah. So hopefully, so congrats on 15 years and cheers to another 35 years.
Oh, jeez. I think I might retire before that, but yeah. We'll see.
We'll be communicating through telepathy by then. Okay, so let's get into story time.
All right.
So we kind of told our story a bit. But I think every week it'll be super fun to kind of tell an anecdotal story, or like a story that of something in real estate that's like happened to us, or a situation or something like that, without naming names or anything.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of alternate. Like I'll do one week, you do the other week. I'm sure like we probably have a Bible of stories. Sometimes I tell stories to my in-laws, and they're like, you should write a book someday.
Well, it's funny because I often will take pictures just for myself, and I have like a scrapbook of wacky pictures from
what?
looking at houses, wacky pictures that I've seen, and like funny things that you've seen in when you're looking at houses. Like, I showed a hoarder house that was like had a whole bunch of clowns and stuffed animals and stuff, and it just looks like so creepy, right? So like, you just do a little pan with your phone.
A little archive of all the shit. Yeah. So this week I'm gonna tell a story. So a couple of years ago, maybe a few years ago now, I got a call from a builder client of mine who was, at the time, he was building infills in Winnipeg. If you don't know what an infill is where you take an old existing neighborhood, and you either tear down a house and subdivide it into two lots, or just tear down one house and build one house in its place. Or if you have an old house that's situated on a double lot and it's off to one side where you have a vacant lot, you can either subdivide or split that lot at land titles, apply for variances, and then you can build a house next door. Some areas you can do that easier than others. But this one guy, he got this house sight unseen at an auction. His intention was to tear it down and build a new, like a bi-level style single family home, and then we were going to advertise and sell it. Now it was in the North End, but it was in Shaughnessy Heights, which is like kind of close to McPhillips, and it's a great part of the North End. And so this is a builder who he kind of goes rogue, and he'll just do deals with other investors or buy stuff like without talking to me or telling me, until it's like, James, I need you to do this, or I need you to, sell this or whatever. I'm like, oh, when did you buy that? Like surprise stuff all the time. But anyways, there was a guy one of his friends who was a resale investor buys this thing at an auction sight unseen. And I guess there wasn't enough meat on the bones for him. So he decided to wholesale it over to my client, the builder, and my client picked it up from him. And when you're buying stuff at auction, like the reason why a house would go to auction is if there's no power of attorney, or if there's no executor of an estate, or if it's a proceeds of crime. So like if a house is busted in a meth bust or something like that, then sometimes it'll be taken over. It'll go to the Crown, or if somebody stops making their mortgage payments, and they default on their mortgage, the bank will take it. Sometimes they'll sell it at auction. These properties are sold sight unseen, so you can walk around the property, but you can't go inside. So as you can imagine, these things sell pretty cheap. So anyways, he calls me up. He's like, James, I wanted to tear this thing down and get you to sell a new build, but I have to get an asbestos abatement done. The city of Winnipeg, when you're looking to demo anything, garage, a house, whatever, you have to apply for a demo permit. You have to apply for the build permit at the same time. And they'll get you to do a report, or get a report done on how much asbestos there is in the property, because they think that when that excavator comes to tear the house down, all of that asbestos insulation, which is known to be, I guess, cancer causing, it becomes airborne, and then it can be sucked into neighboring houses, and then people can get cancer or whatever. You know, it's kind of, you could argue that it's kind of silly, and it's overkill. But this is a very expensive process. And unfortunately, you don't really know how expensive it's going to be until you get the report done. So what the city of Winnipeg wants you to do is they want you to get a report based on the percentage of asbestos that's contained in that report. They may want you to remove the material, the asbestos containing material in or outside of the property prior to the house being demolished. And you have to do this through a company that has all the equipment to do so. And asbestos can be found in your insulation, but it can also, back in the day, they used to use it as filler material for things like tiles, flooring. It was in paint, drywall, as even stucco siding on the exteriors. Like,
yeah, we had asbestos siding on our house.
Yeah, so it's like super common material. I would argue that it's actually more dangerous to go, because what some people do is they get the report done, and then they're like, holy crap, this is going to cost me 15 grand to remove it. I'll just go hire some labor ready guys, like some low income guys, to go and remove it. You think those guys are wearing full hazmat suits? No, they're with hammers and chisels and grinders and cutting it out by hand, which is like directly in your face at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, the excavator comes and they just put a hole in the roof, everything collapses in on itself, and then they pick it up and put it in a bin. Like, I would argue that's a lot safer, but you know, City of Winnipeg does what they want, so they'll demand what they want. So anyways, asbestos report, I guess, comes back, it's way too expensive. So he's like, James, I need you to sell this house and dump it, get rid of it, find another buyer for it, I don't care who. So I said, well, I need to go and look at the property to see what the bones are like, because I may have somebody for it. Like, I may have somebody that wants to pick it up and flip it. Have you been inside? He's like, no, I haven't been inside. There's a deadbolt on the front door, like an actual latch. The property management company puts like an actual deadbolt on there, like a lock. So he says, I'll get you the key. So I go down there. It's like a Friday afternoon on Redwood Avenue. And I get out, and the house is just like totally disheveled, totally like unkempt from the outside. It was like shopping carts in the front yard, beds in the front yard. It had this cute little front porch on it. And what I was trying to do is look to see what the foundation was like, what the roof's like, all the major components of the house, to determine if the bones are good, somebody can come and, you know, splash and dash, like flip it. And so anyways, I go inside, and it's a hoarder house. No clowns or anything, but there's just shit everywhere, like boxes piled to the roof. And you had to, and I mean, we see this stuff all the time. I see this stuff all the time, and I'm used to it. It doesn't scare me, but there was literally a path from the front door. You had to put one foot in front of the other and walk sideways to get through this house. Nobody had been in this house since it was repossessed, and it was boarded up and locked up. So you can imagine the smells in there. It's pretty gnarly. So I go in, and there was like hypodermic needles all over the ground, like with the orange caps on them. So somebody had been squatting in there at one point, or maybe it was a drug house. We don't really know. And there was bicycle parts all over the place. So I go in the house and I start yelling, hello, anybody here? Like, knowing that the house is boarded up, probably nobody there, but you never know. I mean, people squat in houses all the time. So I start yelling, hello, hello. I don't hear anything. Just to be safe, I pick up a pair of handlebars, because there's like a random set of handlebars from a BMX bike. And I walk in, like walking down this path, one foot in front of the other, and I have these handlebars. And there's no hydro on in the house, so it's kind of dark in there. All the windows are boarded up. I'm like, I just want to get to the basement. I want to see like what the basement's like. I want to see what the foundation's like. So I'm like, hello, hello. Now I'm starting to get a little panicked. So it's an old house, early 1900s. The living room, the dining room were at the front. There's like a front porch, and then this narrow little hallway to get to the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Bathroom was in the hallway, small little 4-piece bathroom, and then the kitchen was all the way at the back, and it was a classic like extension built onto the back. They put the kitchen in there, and
the stairs to the basement.
yeah, and then the door. There was a full basement, and the door was in the hallway to the basement, but I didn't know which door it was. So I'm like walking down this hallway, hello, and now I start hearing. I'm like,
oh my God,
hello, is anybody there? I swear to God. And then I hear bang, 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 and pots are falling, and I'm like, shit. And I couldn't even turn around, Denise, because it was so narrow. Like there was so much crap. I couldn't even turn around, so I'm like backing up.
Oh my God.
And I could see down the hallway. There's this like opening, and then I could see there's a table, and then like a hutch with a whole bunch of boxes and pots and pans and dishes and everything piled up. And I'm like this, and I see a mouse. Well, it wasn't a mouse, it was a rat.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
like biggest mouse I've ever seen. It literally jumped from the table, flew in the air, and jumped. And I was like, okay, it's mice. Still disgusting, but at least I'm not going to die here. So I take the handlebars and I throw them down this opening. And then I see more mice. Boo, 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 boo. I'm like, screw this, right? Now, I managed to like turn around and in the hallway. And then I see the door. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be the basement door. There's like gap under the door. It's an old like character house, right? So there's like an old wood door, tiny little opening. I open the door. As I open the door, I look at the bottom of the stairs, and it's like old staircase, super steep staircase going down. I see there's so much water in the basement because I guess the even though the water was shut off, there was like sewer backup over the years. Like this house had been vacant for a lot longer than what I thought.
Right.
And there's sewer backup. The basement had flooded. There was water like halfway up the steps, and I could see the furnace. I could see the hot water tank. Everything was completely, and there was like stuff floating in the water. And then all of a sudden I open the basement door and I look down and I see mice swimming in the water. Oh my
God.
Swimming. And I was like not one, but two. I saw like multiple mice swimming. So they're like
everywhere.
They're training for something. They're training. That was their house. They were training for the Olympics in there.
Yeah.
And easily like the scariest shit I've ever seen. Most disgusting. And I like ran out of there. I made a big bang, 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 and I heard all the scurrying going on, and I ran out of the house, and then so I call the owner, call the builder. I'm like, hey, I think the bones are good, but we got to get rid of that water in the basement because it's really bad. So what had happened was the meter was shut off. The water meter itself had been manually shut off by the property management company. But we found out later on that the shut off from the street wasn't closed.
Oh no.
There's like a nut that they have to tighten to close it, and it was stripped. So water was consistently pouring into the basement from the city.
Wow.
And it was leaking before the meter. And so we phone the city of Winnipeg and we call them down there. And so I had to wait. And then I had to go in a second time with the city of Winnipeg guy. And he actually went into that basement. He had like hip waders on. And I'm like, just to give you a warning, there's mice down there. And I saw them, they're swimming around. And I don't know if he didn't believe me, but he goes, I'm like, I'm going to wait on the front step while you do what you have to do. So he goes in there and he's down there and I just hear him yelling.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And he comes up and he says that there were like lids of like Tupperware containers and the mice were jumping from lid to lid. So they had like a little resort down there. They had little islands, floating yachts.
Like Hoopla Island.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's I don't see that kind of stuff all the time, but
I hope not.
yeah, but every once in a while you come across something like that. And
If
you're
we
just
saw that all the time, I think those would be the things that would make us not want to be in real estate anymore.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. You know, I look at that stuff and I'm like, dollar signs. That's
right.
so much potential. So then, so what happened to that house? So
We sold it in multiple offers.
we sold it, and it was a house flipper that bought it, and
Yep.
it was like about 4 or 5 months later, it was back on market, and it was shiny and new inside, just beautiful. So
Yeah.
whoever's living there now, they have no idea that they were living in a mouse. And the neighbors, the day I went and put the sold sign up,
Yeah.
neighbors both came outside, and they were just like home or whatever, and they came out and like thanking me for selling that place.
Oh yeah.
Because they said that they had mice problems because of that place.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was
Yeah.
like a training ground but pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't wait to hear your story next week.
I don't know if mine will come close to that.
So let's every week we want to do a weekly topic and talk about something that's happening. You know, there'll be a litany of things we talk about, but this week let's talk about the market.
Yes.
2022, 2021, 2020 even. Crazy years in real estate for Winnipeg, for Manitoba. You know, we saw a lot of action. And what do you think is going to happen this year?
Well, I mean, I feel like they've definitely slowed things down by raising the interest rates. We are back to like our number of sales over the last several months have been pretty much equivalent to like 2015 to 2019 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like they definitely slowed it down finally. I mean, I think they waited way too long to do it, but
Yeah.
But it's done finally.
Mm-hmm.
And our number of sales are equal to pre-pandemic numbers. So I think, you know, that bodes well for Manitoba.
Yeah.
I know from listening to podcasts in other cities that you can't say the same thing for other provinces. But
No.
I think that, you know, as we go forward, we're probably going to see we're always going to see people that need to move. And I think we're just going to have like a more normal market.
Yeah. Which I'm kind of looking forward to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to be able to like have conditions on your offers so that your buyers are able to actually do their due diligence and feel comfortable and not, you know, when we're talking to lawyers over the last 2 years, they saw record number complaints and lawsuits, right? Because people can't do their due diligence. So they're buying something, having looked at it for 30 minutes and then paying, you know, 80 to 100 grand over asking. Of course, they're not happy when they take possession.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, there's surprises.
Yeah.
So, I'm very happy that the market has changed. And I feel like you know, our buyers are going to have a much better time finding a place that they want. Sure, there's less on the market right now, but I think that's going to change soon because I think sellers are realizing that things are back to normal and there are people that are still going to have to sell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of our issues over the last 2 months is that people are reluctant to sell.
Yeah.
So there isn't inventory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still have an inventory crisis. And so I think I'm kind of on the same page. I think that 2023 is going to be similar to the way things were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
The pre-COVID times.
The pre-COVID times, yeah.
You know, just to give people don't understand what happened over the last few years, couple years. You know, during COVID, everybody thought the sky was going to fall with regards to our real estate market and our pricing. But what ended up happening was the perfect shitstorm, where I guess the Fed, in order to keep money flowing in the economy and not declare a recession or potentially a depression, they dropped the interest rates to record lows.
Yeah.
And because we were in a pandemic, we also had a record low level of inventory. And so money's cheap. And there's few houses to look at, and you have, a very, very large part of the population that still had great income because they were working from home and they didn't have anything else to spend their money on other than upsizing. So you had people that were working from home, still making the same income, and having COVID babies and outgrowing their house and being like, hey, we can't go travel, we can't go, do the things we want to do.
We want more. We want office space. We want more room for our kids.
Yeah.
We want more room for recreation in our backyards.
Money's cheap. When the government dumps, between 25 to 30% more currency in our economy, it makes money really cheap, and people go out and spend it.
Yeah.
And we saw the largest differences, like the biggest spreads between list price and sale price week after week after week. There's a realtor that Denise and I used to work with at Royal LePage, who started doing WTF Wednesdays on Instagram, where he would post like the list prices and the sale prices, and it was like pages of houses selling 80, 100, 120,000 over list price. And it's just like so eye-opening. I remember like pre-COVID times, if a house sold for 100K over, it would be like front page news.
Right. It was odd. It wasn't the usual.
And it didn't matter the price point. Like houses $1 million selling for, 1.5 or 1.25 or whatever, which is just previous to COVID was unheard of.
Absolutely.
And now in a fight, in the federal government's fight, to solve this inflation problem, they have now raised interest rates, 6 times since things started peaking. So, our market started peaking here in February and of 2022. And, but because our policymakers, the government, they're not really forward looking, they let the fire burn for too long. Every single market in Canada was running red hot.
Yeah, if you thought ours was bad, other cities were even crazier.
Oh yeah, and the other thing that I think is Tiff Macklem, the finance minister. I think that guy should, if anybody deserves to lose their job, I think he deserves to lose his job. And the reason why is because that guy came out publicly multiple times in 2021 when things were ripping. And he comes out and he says, don't expect interest rates to go up in the foreseeable future. Possibly won't start hiking until the end of 2023. So that sends signals to everybody that, this ride is not over and money's going to stay cheap. And he also came out and said, inflation is not a problem that we're worried about. It's not, inflation is transitory, meaning it will just work itself out in the wash. Over time, the market will hit a ceiling, it'll hit a cap, and then things will have to correct on their own. Well, that didn't happen because it wasn't just real estate that went up. Real estate is only the first indicator, and then it's like retail, groceries. So we had record low inventory because people didn't want to sell, because they either were scared to re-enter the market because they didn't want to, get into a multiple offer situation, or they were scared to move because they didn't want to have people in their house because of COVID. And then, relocations weren't really happening. And then we had record low interest rates. So money's super cheap. You got more money chasing fewer goods that way. And then to top it off, we had supply chain issues. So the supply chain issues that were caused by COVID, such as building materials being impossible to get. And so, suppliers could charge whatever they wanted. not necessarily whatever they wanted, but there was overwhelming demand for material. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of buyers that would, they'd go into the resale market and they're like, hey, I got locked in for 1.8% on a 5-year fixed rate. Let's go out and upsize. This is a great time to buy. And then we'd show them, 50 houses. They'd write 10 offers. They'd lose them all. And then they'd be like, let's go build something. So it's like a pendulum that was swinging back and forth. And then they get swung back into building where they previously hadn't considered building before. And then they're like, holy smokes, there's a escalation clause, and because the builders have to protect themselves too from escalating material prices. And then everything's so expensive over here. Okay, that doesn't make sense. So now let's go back this way. And it just was getting higher and higher and higher and higher. And now here we are. And after all the interest rate hikes, the market it's really sent a signal to the market that they're trying to kill buying power. They're trying to kill buying power. They're trying to I think they're trying to blow up jobs. They want people to really feel it, and that's when they're going to start bringing things back down. But if I was to make a prediction, I think that, it's hard to tell, but I think that we're probably going to experience the R word, the recession. I think it could happen as soon as the end of first quarter. That's the prediction I'm going to make. I think by summer, they might hit the recession button, but we haven't really seen the jobs market. Like, we have negative GDP for sure, but I think the jobs are still pretty good. I think employers are still having a hard time finding good employees. They're still searching. It'll take some time before that changes. But I think once that happens, once employers start feeling the pain and businesses start feeling the pain because things are too expensive, then they'll have to hit the recession button. Recession isn't the end of the world. It just means that the bank has a tool called quantitative easing, which they'll use again. They used it. It's the only tool in their tool belt that they seem to have. I think they're going to use that again to relieve pressure during a recession, make it easier for money to flow and people to borrow money again. And that means interest rates come back down. And I think if they come back down, then the market's going to rally again, and then people are going to be re-entering the market again and really going crazy. And we're still going to have record low inventory. So, couple that with like 420,000 new immigrants coming here in 2023.
Yeah.
Not here specifically, but coming to Canada.
Right.
Those people, they filter out. They ultimately will filter. They'll probably start in Vancouver, Toronto, a lot of them. And then they'll go to Calgary, they'll go to Saskatchewan, they'll come to Manitoba, kind of filter down. And, new immigrants, they move to cities that are affordable, where there are jobs and where their families already exist. And I think we're going to see that here. And they're coming with money. So, they're going to be permanent residents that are able to buy, and we don't have the houses for them. So, but I would say that right now is probably one of the best times to buy, because interest rates aren't that bad. I was talking to Cam Rukra. So if anybody out there is looking for a really great mortgage broker, Cam Rukra with Inspiria Financial. So he's, depending on your qualifying, depending on your income, depending on your work situation, 4.89% on a 5-year fixed rate, 4.99% on a 5-year fix. It's actually not bad.
No, that's decent.
So I remember 2019, like 3.6, 3.7. So we're really only like maybe a full point over where we were in 2019, and 2019 was a great market. So I think that it's a great time to buy right now, because even though the interest rates are a little bit higher, like Denise said, you can get into something with a condition. You don't have to fight for it. You don't have to potentially overpay for something, you know, and then, you know, lock in for a 1 year or 2 year fixed, because when the pendulum swings back the other way, you can always refinance, and you know, get a lower rate locked in. So that's just my thinking on it. My prediction is that we're going to have a balanced market leading up to when they hit the recession button, whenever they do that, if they do that. And once they do that, interest rates will come down, and then we'll be right back where we were again. So take advantage. If you have an opportunity to buy something now, I think it's a great time to buy.
I agree. And it's still a great time to sell stuff, selling decently. And I feel like you don't have to deal with, like, you know, moving out of your house and having, you know, back-to-back 8 to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. showings every day for 7 days, right? Like, I mean, most people had to move out of their houses when they were selling their house last spring, because there was no way you were able to even get into it during the day. So it's better for sellers. It's better for buyers. It's just a much more calm market. Stuff's still selling.
It's much more transparent process now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you don't have to feel rushed. You don't have to be in the house for 30 minutes, you know, and then you got
hurrying to get out because someone else is waiting.
Exactly. People banging on the door.
Yeah.
Take your time. Write those offers with home inspection conditions. Do your due diligence.
Yeah, you can bring mom and dad now. You couldn't in the spring or last year.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't, you know, it was hard to get an inspector in there. If you were doing that, you were doing it as a pre-inspection and paying for pre-inspection after pre-inspection after pre-inspection.
Yeah.
And that's if you could get in again with an inspector, because you often couldn't get the appointment.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like it's much better for everybody. I know, as someone who has sold houses myself, like for myself, I would rather the buyer know what they're buying than threaten to sue me after.
Oh, exactly.
Right. So, and that was why there was so many, you know, so much litigation in the last 2 years. Right. So,
yeah, no, it's a much better world right now. And the great thing is our prices, like, because we're on real estate island here, we're not impacted by boom or bust industry. Buyers here are very emo. They're very emotional when it comes to weather. I don't want to move in December, you know, so that has a natural slowdown effect, you know, in a normal balanced market, pre-COVID market, like, we would have, you know, people would get their pre-approvals in January as their New Year's resolution. So it'd be like, okay, we're going to get pre-approved. Our New Year's resolution, we're going to buy a house this year.
Yeah, so that we can move in April or May before the summer and enjoy our summer.
So usually like February to June is like a wicked time to sell, you know, because that's when everything's just ripping. Everybody's out there getting pre-approved and looking at stuff. And then typically it kind of simmers out, you know, over the summer, because everybody's enjoying their summer, going away, going to the cabin, going to the lake, you know, really taking advantage of it while we have it. And then
it picks right back up mid-September.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it kind of, you know, teeters out over the wintertime. And
mid-November-ish.
I'm excited to see it go back to that again, because
predictable. Like, 2020 didn't follow that pattern at all. It was you know, it died out when the pandemic hit, and then it started to come back alive in September, and we had a crazy, like, end of the year. Like, I feel like it never slowed down that December at all, and well into like January, February of 2021, right? Like, it just stayed crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be kind of nice to have a more predictable market. When people are asking us, when should we sell? You can actually give them advice based on,
rather than
history rather than guessing.
Yeah. Well, I remember like 2021, I think it was December, January. People were like, "Oh, I don't think it's a good time to sell right now." I'm like, "Are you kidding?
Yeah, stuff was crazy.
You should have this place up yesterday."
Yeah.
And by Thursday, we're going to have 20 offers. And they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, yeah. And that's the kind of life that we lived. And I'm looking forward to getting back to it. It's like February, mid-Feb, end of February, list it. Great time to sell because there's no other competition in the market. You're the only game in town. You got a lot of buyers entering the market at that time. And, in a normal balance market, end of February was like the best year for me for people that wanted to sell in the spring. Because you could ask a 3-month possession, gives the seller time to go and, find something. And, by that time, there's plenty more houses to choose from. So, and, but yeah, I'm excited for that as well. And here's hoping that we're not like something else doesn't happen between now and then.
Right. Yeah.
But nothing shocks me anymore. So we talked about the market, what's happening, kind of how we got here a little bit and where we're going. And we're almost done, I think. The last segment, and like I said, as we do these, it'll be a lot easier and smoother. But I'd like to end these off by kind of doing like a, like almost like a business of the week type shout out called, Giving Flowers. And, so showing gratitude for local businesses, business owners, people who have done us a service and people who we admire. And so for this week, I want to shout out Kaitlan Buchko. So industry related business, but Kaitlan is a good dear friend, and she is a real estate lawyer with Cuddy Law. And Cuddy is a large firm, decently sized firm at 330 St. Mary Avenue. And Kaitlan is a real estate lawyer. So if anybody out there is looking for a great real estate lawyer, somebody who's very personal, when you pick up the phone, you are getting her, instead of the phone getting passed around in the bullpen kind of thing. And the clients that I have sent to her, whether buyers or sellers, they love her. They think that she's very great, very personable, and super knowledgeable. So if anybody's looking for a great real estate lawyer, Kaitlan Buchko is your girl. And then, so Tara and I, my wife and I have been, trying to eat more local and eat better. And this next business that I'll shout out, I apologize, cover your ears if you are a vegan or vegetarian, but it's Frigs Natural Meats. And Frigs Natural Meats is a family-owned butcher shop and food store, and it's located in West St. Paul at 3515 Main Street, pretty close to where Tara and I live, and they're just amazing. We got our Thanksgiving turkey, we got our Christmas turkey there this year. We recently did a roast, so we got our roast there. And my gosh, they are incredible, and they're very friendly, knowledgeable. They taught us about chickens. They taught us about eggs. They get all of their eggs from a local farmer who makes his own feed. So they sell eggs there. And they told us that, grocery store, or I should say factory farm eggs, they inject dye into the feed to color the yolks certain color. also with turkeys and chickens, if you buy them from, like if they're factory farmed, they pump them full of water to make them weigh more, so that when you're cooking them, your roasting pan fills up 3/4 with water, and you're like, what the heck is going on? But theirs don't. There's all natural, grass-fed, free range, really, really great meat. And their steaks are great. I went there to buy a type of beef roast one time for taco night. I love tacos. And so I go there and I'm like, hey, I need this certain type of roast. And the guy says, okay, I'll be right back. And he goes in the back and he's got his apron on. It's blood everywhere, because it's a butcher shop. And he comes back out and he's got this big slab, puts it on the thing. And he's like, how much you want? And he's like, fresh cut, just butchered it this morning. Like, holy man. Okay, I'll take this much, They're just super great. They don't just sell meat there. They also, in the summer, they've done vegetables there. Like, it's all local purveyors and farmers and stuff like that. And then, we sometimes have a hard time finding good wild rice, and they sell really amazing wild rice there. So if you're looking for like a natural place to buy your food, it's really affordable as well. Frigs meats, highly, highly recommend. Can't say enough good things about them. So that's it for me this week. What do you got?
Awesome. Industry business is Wyatt Dowling, although I'm shouting them out for a non-business related reason.
An insurance place, right?
Yeah, Wyatt Dowling Insurance. I normally recommend my clients go see Lynn Dolphin over at the Regent branch, and there's plenty of other wonderful people that work at their different branches. I've never had a bad thing to say about any of them. They're all really great. But recently, when we were delivering our chipboard hampers, one of our families was a Ukrainian refugee family, and when we went to deliver to them, one of their neighbors came over to ask us some questions, and only spoke Ukrainian. I could kind of gather some of her questions, but I couldn't really convey what I wanted to say back. And I put out a request for help on Facebook, and one of my other friends at Wyatt Dowling reached out and told me to talk to Helena at the Kildone and Green branch, and she was super, super enthusiastic to help us out and communicated with the family, and was able to we were able to help them out to get their questions answered. And it just goes to show that, like, even when we're not doing business, they're super friendly, they're super happy to help in the community, and they're very competent at their jobs as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just wanted to shout them out for that. And my other one is Niverville Bigway. Here in my town, we have a nice little grocery store that they're actually expanding right now. But they have like so much stuff in there. I'm always amazed at what I find in there. You almost don't have to go to the city sometimes, right? Like they have good sales, they have a good butcher, they have alcohol. They always carry James's favorite beer from TCB, so they have lots of craft beers and everything. And nice. They do carry a lot of local products as well. So we love picking up our new Bothwell cheese or whatever, right? So and they've been super helpful. If you even ask if they carry something, if they don't carry it, probably the next time you're there, they will have it on the shelf.
That's awesome. I love just small town businesses like that.
Yeah, they're super awesome, and everybody there is really friendly. Their butcher is really helpful as well. I know you had shouted out Frigs and but yeah, I've been in the meat department, and I'm like, oh, we were having friends over and we were hoping to do like this certain type of meat or whatever, and he'll go in the back and cut it up for me, right? So he always accommodates, and he's very and they use a lot of they only bring in meat from local butchers. That's cool. I mean, local farmers. Yeah.
And so for people listening, the reason why I didn't call this Winnipeg podcast, and I called it Manitoba podcast, is because we both do a lot of business outside the city. We both live outside the city, right? So Denise, you're in Niverville.
I'm in Niverville, yeah.
How far south from Winnipeg is Niverville?
It's like 25 minutes from the perimeter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a self-sustaining community, so it's got everything there. So all levels of schooling, stores, everything you need.
We have a brand new arena with the Niverville Nighthawks and
hockey team.
We have a golf course. We have lots of restaurants. The medical system out here is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I am always happy to shout them out when I'm talking to people about where they want to move to, because they have everything that you need here. Yeah.
So for anybody listening, if you're thinking about moving outside of the city and you want to be in an amazing small community, but you want access to everything, Niverville, where Denise lives, awesome place. And I'm just north of the city, so we're at opposite ends. So I'm in East St. Paul. I'm only about 5 minutes to the city, but I'm kind of in the town of Birds Hill, and we've got a credit union, we've got some amazing pizza places, we've got a Dairy Queen now, so we're really we're really popping off.
Yeah,
we got a Sobeys, which I love Sobeys. I know it's like a bigger store, but when I was in high school, I worked at Sobeys for many years in the grocery department, and sometimes I go in there and they're like, "Sir, do you need help with anything?" I'm like, "Nope, I might as well work here. Give me your apron. I probably know more than you."
I like that they carry a lot of local products at Sobeys.
They do, yeah. And the people there are super friendly. Meat Man, if you're listening, back off my wife. Leave her alone. She goes in there, and there's a guy that works in the meat department who chats up all the ladies, and I think he's just super friendly guy. And during COVID, when there was such uncertain times, and you got these poor cashiers and stuff, these employees in these stores and stuff that are just taking the brunt of it. People pissed off because they have to wear a mask and whatever. They have to follow the lines in the road. And the poor employees have to take the brunt of all that shit. And so we went out of our way to talk to people and be like, "I hope you're having a great day," and and so there's this guy. I actually don't know what he looks like, because he only talks to my wife when she goes shopping, which is most of the time she'll go grocery shopping. But we'll be like, "Oh, thank God I didn't come across Meat Man today," because he's one of those guys that's just a little too friendly. But love Sobeys, and it's another really great community, and can't say enough good things about it. It's super quiet, and we've thought about potentially building or moving out to different communities, but to be honest with you, it's just such a great mature neighborhood, and there's a lot of turnover happening right now in East St. Paul, where a lot of the 80s and 90s built shacks that were built, original owners are starting to downsize. They're starting to move out of the RM, and you have a lot of young families that are moving in. Now, I wouldn't say a lot, because there's not a lot of inventory that pops up there, but it's slowly happening, and it's really cool to see. And they're really spending a lot of money on infrastructure, walking paths, trails, trees. It's really cool, and it's a great spot. So if anybody out there is looking to buy in Niverville, call Denise. If you're looking to buy East St. Paul, call me. I'll tell you all about it. But I think that'll wrap up today's episode, and I just want to thank everybody for staying tuned all the way to the end of this thing. And as we start clicking and we do this more and more, it'll get a lot better, I'm sure. And if you have questions, real estate related questions, you want us to talk about it or address things on the pod, reach out to us anytime. More than happy to. And then, I forgot to say this at the beginning, but like it, share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And it really helps with our business, and it helps with, just spreading the word. If you know somebody who's wants something, interesting to listen to, real estate related stuff, Winnipeg related stuff, Manitoba, share it with them. Love to see this go viral. I don't know if it'll go viral, but like, you know, it'd be kind of cool. So it helps like bring on more guests and stuff like that. I want to bring on some pretty awesome guests in the future. So any last words?
No, I can't think of anything else. I guess, you know, if you want to talk about the local market or anything that's, you know, on your goals for 2023 that have to do with real estate, we're happy to sit down and chat and yeah, help make you figure out a plan.
Yep. Get her done.
Yep.
2023 LFG. Let's go. Okay. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Have an awesome day, awesome week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, James.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I gotta log out of here now.
Am I leaving call?
Just gonna stop recording.
All right.